Alright, 6.2 is factoring special cases. If you could take a second, fill in as many of those at the top as you can. You're going to be able to come back and check with me on these. Pause it right now, and again, just fill out as many of these as you can. For instance, 1 squared just means 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 squared means 2 times 2, which is 4, and so on. Down here with cubes, this would of course mean 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, and so on. Again, fill in as many of those as you can. Alright, so now that you can check those or just write them in, make sure you double check to make sure they're right. If you did them first, and then scratch anything out, put your correct ones. Difference of squares is something you've seen before. Difference of squares looks like a squared minus b squared. For instance, we've seen this before. Most of you probably remember how to do this because I can square root and square root each term. And as long as there's a minus sign in between, we could say it's the square root of the first term and the square root of the second term in each box, and it's just plus and minus. In other words, if it's a squared plus b squared, no matter what they are, I can square root each term and just get a plus b and a minus b. How does that apply to this? Well, it still gives me two binomials. I can square root that. What's the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of x squared is x, so that's my number there, and square root of 36 is 6, and I just get plus or minus. Does it matter if you have minus and then plus? No, means the same thing. Okay. Then we have difference in sums of cubes. Notice there is no such thing as sums of squares. So if you get a squared plus 9, that can't be factored. Okay. Now difference in sums of cubes means I have a cubed minus b cubed or a cubed plus b cubed. And I'm going to kind of teach these together because they kind of work the same way. In other words, I got to figure out first, I'm going to have a binomial times a trinomial, so maybe make the second one bigger. And the first two terms are just the cube root of each one of these. So the cube root of a cubed is a, and the cube root of b cubed is b. What I mean by that, and I'm going to kind of set this up at the same time for both of these problems, is the cube root of x cubed is x. The cube root of 64, well, look up here. 4 cubed is 64, so the cube root of 64 is 4. The answer is not 8 here because it's not square root, it's cubes. And if you see a cube there, then that is, well, really x cubed minus 4 cubed. So 4 goes there. I'm not going to put any signs in, I'm doing that intentionally. I'm going to work the same thing here. For sums of cubes, it starts with a and b in here as well. And so the cube root of 8x cubed means the cube root of 8, which is 2, and the cube root of x cubed, which is x. The cube root of 27 is 3. And that's what goes in the first couple of spots. Okay? And then from there, it's whatever that is squared, the entire term. Whatever that is squared goes at the end. And if you just multiply those together, you get AB. And guess what? It is exactly the same in both forms. And what I want you to notice right now before you look at anything else is how they look exactly the same. Now all you got to do is remember same, opposite, plus. Say it. Same, opposite, plus. Say it again. Same, opposite, plus. Okay, here's what I mean. See, this is a minus sign. Same, opposite, plus. See, this is a plus sign. So same, opposite, plus. And it's always that way. So what I try to tell you guys is get the number values, the numerical values, the exponents as well in here first, and then just go same, opposite, plus for signs, because otherwise it can get a little confusing. I'll show you what I mean. Now, what is x squared? So that we got to square that term. X squared is literally x squared. How about my b? So what's 4 squared? Well, that gives me 16. Now you can see that that's matching up with that and that's matching up with that. Okay? And then for my middle term, I just need to multiply the two together. X and 4 is just 4x. And then it's same, opposite, plus. Done. Same thing here. What is this term squared? Well, 2x squared means 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. 3 squared is 9, that goes at the end. And then I multiply those two together. 2x times 3 is 6x. Whatever that sign is, it's same, opposite, plus. I could refoil this back out. I could see that this will give me the 8x cubed I want. A plus 12x squared and a minus 12x squared will cancel each other out. A plus 18x and a minus 18x will cancel each other out. And plus 27 gives me my last one, so it works. And you could do the same thing here if I wanted to. Take a second, look at what I did on these two, and see if you can fill in these two. And I'll give you a hint. It starts, again, with a binomial and a trinomial. Go ahead, press pause, try it yourself. This one will probably be easier than this one, so maybe do this one first, and then we'll go from there. So again, I'm starting off with the cube root of each in those boxes. I'm going to fill in my signs later. For this one, x squared, 2 squared goes there, and multiplied 2 together, there. And then it's same, opposite, plus. Done. Okay. For this one, I took the cube root of this to give me 3x. I took the cube root of 1 to give me 1, because 1 cubed is 1. Take that first term and cube, square it. So 3x times 3x gives me 9x squared there. 1 squared is 1 over there, and multiply the two together to give me 3x there. And again, it's same, opposite, plus. Now the reason that I keep saying put in the signs last is because if you put a minus here to begin with, I'm afraid you're going to say negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x here. And that is not the case. You are just multiplying a and b together, the minus stays there inconsequentially. So find the numbers, then plug in the signs. Okay? So that's kind of the first part of your homework. The second part, well, includes this as well, where I need to factor. I'm going to move it over here a little bit. Okay, and I need to factor these here. Now if I gave you x squared minus 3x plus 2 and told you to factor that, I think you could all do it by now. We know we'd have x and x. 2 is a prime number, so you'd have 2 and 1. And to be able to get a negative 3, I'd have to have minus and minus, because that would give me negative 2 times negative 1 to give me positive 2 here as well. And that would be it. That would be your answer. It works the same way here. If I have x to the fourth and I can't take GCF out, which I look for first and I can't, I'm going to take x squared and 2 and 1 and minus and minus. And look, it's the same exact thing. The only difference is the x squared and the x squared. Why? Because again, if I were to FOIL this back out, I get x to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 1x squared gives me negative 3x squared, and then plus 2. That's it. Now, if I can go further, I need you to go further. In other words, what I'm going to look for is these difference of squares. So I look for one of these numbers if it shows up. And x squared minus 2 cannot, but x squared minus 1 is x plus 1, x minus 1. And yes, I do want you to take it that step further if it can be. On this problem, again, x squared and x squared, I'm not going to make you try it because you can probably do it with me. It's either 8 and 1 or 4 and 2. 4 and 2 is what's going to give me the negative, as long as I have negative 4 and positive 2. And again, I can take that one further. It's difference of two things. I can square root 2x2, x2, x squared plus 2, plus minus, done. Okay. So I would suggest that when you're doing your homework, you rip this page off, because the homework is just one page coming up here in just a second, and look at this page as you're doing it to help you through it, okay? Keep in mind the examples are very similar to the ones you're going to see, okay? And with that being said, let's try the next page. By the way, number 8 is going to be a really tough one. Think GCF before you solve it, okay? Moving along, let's look at the next page. We're going to solve these, okay? Remember what solve means. Solve means set factors equal to 0. Okay, and a lot of times you guys just say the opposite, which is correct, but I want to make sure you understand that we're solving for the zeros, the x-intercepts, the roots. We use those terms interchangeably. So first thing you should always look for here is a GCF if you can. It's kind of like what you did on last week Thursday, where you had to do that. So here I'm going to factor out what's the biggest number in each? Well, 2, and I can factor out an x out of each term. If I factor out 2x divided into there, it gives me 2x squared. If I factor a 2x out of there, it gives me plus 1x. And a 2x out of there gives me minus 3. Well, then I can factor that 2x times 2x and x. And I know it's either 1 and 3 or 3 and 1. To get me there, though, I know I gotta have 3 here and 1 here. You can guess and check, but I know that 2x and 3x is what I need as long as the 3 is positive and the 1 is negative. Now again, I set these terms equal to 0. So when I set 2x equal to 0, how do I solve that? Well, I just divide, so I get x equals 0. I'd set 2x plus 3 equal to 0, this term, minus 3 to both sides, of course, and divide to get negative 3 halves. And when I set this equal to 0, I would just add the 1 to get 1, and that is my answers. Okay. Number 10, I'm going to factor out, well, I can't factor a number out of both, but I can certainly factor an x out of both. And I get to there. Now I can take that further, like so. And now again, set them equal to 0. Set x equal to 0, I get 0, negative 6, and positive 6. And that's my answers. Now what about these ones that are to the 4th power? Well, I've got to do again x squared and x squared, just like you would do normally x and x. The factors of 32 are 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. Oh, that's what's going to give me that, as long as the 8 is positive and the 4 is negative. Okay. Now, I can break this down further. X plus 2, x minus 2, and x squared plus 8. But I still need the zeros. Well, that's going to be really easy for these two, negative 2 and 2. But for that one, well, hopefully you can remember how to do this. Set it equal to 0, minus 8 to both sides, just like you're probably thinking. And then how do I solve for a squared? What's the opposite? Square root. When you square root this, remember this is 4, 2, and negative 1. So I'm going to get plus or minus 2i square root to 2. So plus or minus 2i square root to 2. And there's my 4 answers for that one. I'd like you to try 9, 11, and 13. They're going to be very similar to this. And then for this one, you're going to factor out a 2 first. I'll just say that. It's a lot easier. Try that. Try and work your way through it. Come back and check after you press pause right now, please. Okay, so I worked out number 9 real quick, just factored out an x and then got my zeros from there. For number 11, I started it, I factored out a 2. This is difference of cubes, which gives me the cube root of each term, squared, squared, multiply them together, same opposite plus. Then I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0. If I set 2 equal to 0, that doesn't happen, it's not going to give me a solution. If I set 2x minus 3 equal to 0, I would add 3 to both sides and divide to get 3 halves. And then for this one, well, it's kind of crazy. You have to use the quadratic formula. Just write it down. I'm not going to make you do this on your homework or on a test or a quiz. Not a huge worry. You can kind of just copy down what I'm writing here. 4 times 4 times 9 is 4 times 36, which is 144 all over 8. This is 36 and 3 and negative 1. So I'm going to have negative 6 plus or minus 6 square roots of 3 with an I stuck in there with 8. And I can reduce it. Again, don't freak out about this. I'm not going to make you do it this crazy. There's my answers there. And this one you should have been able to do though. X squared plus 12, x squared minus 1. That becomes x plus 1, x minus 1, which gives me negative and positive 1. This I just solved over here by subtracting the 12, square rooting it, breaking it down, and then rewriting it. Maybe sure you get plus or minus. Again, 4 exponent, I should have 4 answers. Third exponent, so I should have 1, 2 would be the plus, 3 would be the minus. Cubed, 3 answers. Cubed, 3 answers. Cubed, 3 answers. Fourth, 4 answers, because plus or minus counts as 1 each. That's it. Your homework is the next page. Please make sure you try through these. They'll be a lot faster than you think.